You to give us each a 2-minute closing statement.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for being here tonight. This is what representative democracy is all about, hearing from your candidates and what our thoughts are. You have a clear, distinct difference in who to vote for this time on philosophical or policy. If you want bigger government, higher taxes, more regulation, don't vote for me. I have full confidence in the private sector to unleash them and keep as much money in their pocket and have government do what the services that people expect, but not do more. And, you know, Congressman Space talks about that I pass budgets. You know, we passed 2 budgets, 05 and 08, of the smallest growth budgets in the state of Ohio's history. I write the largest tax cut in Ohio history. He's voted for over $1 trillion in tax increases since in this Congress alone. And he doesn't get it about the wealth. We need to create wealth. Wealth creation, when you create wealth, you add value to something that people need for their existence. And there's 3 ways you do that. We develop our natural resources, we mine it, we raise it or grow it agriculture, you make it manufacturing. And when you do those kind of things, that creates jobs and opportunities. It doesn't matter if you're wealthy or poor. That's what made people get wealthy, because we created wealth and everybody participates in that. But the problem is the policies being passed here in Washington, D.C. are putting up barriers against creating wealth. Higher energy costs, higher taxes, more regulation. Those are all barriers against those creating wealth. And if we don't create wealth, that's what's made this country great. Creating wealth and innovation. It's not about the wealthy people. It's about creating opportunities and jobs for everybody. And we rise the tide, rise the boat, rising tide for everybody. The boat rises. So that, you know, that's a clear distinction, because I don't think Congressman Space gets it. I just don't really think he gets it. You can't spend money we don't have and think things are going to get better. And we're going to cut that budget, and we're going to do it responsibly, and we're not going to raise taxes. And he has a history of raising taxes. I've worked to cut taxes in Ohio, and don't believe everything he says. There's a lot of rhetoric out there. Time's up.
Thank you. And Mr. Sutton.
What makes America great is the American people. And the American people have a constitution that protects their rights. We can be great as individuals if we keep the federal government at bay. Our founders understood this. This is why we are no longer a British entity. Freedom is what Americans want. Of course we want jobs. Of course we want all the things in life. But they come from freedom. The foundation of that is freedom. Freedom to trade. Unrestricted, yes, regulated, but unrestricted. Regulated, to me, is like the road signs that you pass on the interstate or go on the highway somewhere that doesn't say you can't come down the road. They simply say, stop here, proceed. Speed limit. They keep things flowing. That's the way the federal government is supposed to regulate things such as trade, and which goes to the whole issue of wealth creation. This is a well, you know, is the most wealthy nation on earth. We have higher living standards than anywhere, but at what expense? I mean, when you talk about these stimulus packages and all this money, there's no money. We're broke. If I personally owed $13 trillion, and I was spending right now this year $1.5 trillion more than I had, what do you call that? I'm broke. I'm broke. Our government's broke, and yet we want to continue to rely on our federal government. I'm sorry, I must have broke this. But we want to keep going to the federal government for these things, and they have no money. The only money they have is yours, the money you send them. But we're broke.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. And Mr. Space.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for being here, and thank Bob and Lindsey for yet another one of our forums, debates, what have you. Never mind that Mr. Gibbs's history of spending speaks for itself. Never mind that we have actually lowered taxes for working class families and small businesses. Here's the problem. The solution coming from Mr. Gibbs, and I don't mean to slight you, Lindsey, so forgive me. The solution is, it entails empty rhetoric. Who doesn't want to lower taxes? Who doesn't want to balance the budget? Who doesn't want to get the bureaucrats off our back? Earlier, I predicted this, and I was right. I told you he would say, we need to create wealth in his closing statement. He said it. And it tells you all you need to know about the difference between us. Because the young mother who has to take her children through a line at the soup kitchen to feed that child, the veteran who feels like he's been shortchanged by his country, the senior who has to choose between medication or gas to heat the home, the displaced factory worker who no longer has a job because the factory moved to China or Mexico. They're not looking to get wealthy. They want to feed their families. They want to save for their kids' college education if they can, maybe buy a house, maybe be able to retire someday with a little bit of comfort. Those are the people that we need to be watching out for. The alternative is to go back to watching out for the people that put us into this crisis. Now, do we want to go back? Because that's the direction that Bob Gibbs and John Boehner are going to take us. Thank you.
Thank you.